Terraria just added a new summon in 1.4.5 called Foxparks, and you can quite literally use it as a flamethrower, which got me thinking, can you now actually beat Terraria Master Mode using only flamethrowers? With an extremely limited selection of 3 flamethrowers, needing to somehow defeat the Wall of Flesh and a mech boss with a single pre-boss summon. This might be one of my most difficult challenges yet. But to start out, we don't have any weapons, and we're somehow going to have to get Foxparks without one. But to start out, I find some living trees. Here I actually want to find a gnome, which I do quickly find one. I then lead it up to the sun and it turns into a garden gnome. This is important for later, but for now we're just exploring our world, cutting down some trees, and I actually got a Faycorn pet, which is new to 1.4.5. It spawns this Senax pet. It doesn't actually cut down trees though, it just occasionally will drop a wood. I then find a natural surface cave, which has an abandoned house in it with a gold chest, giving us a magic mirror, which is not bad. I find my first life crystal and then die, and now it's nighttime, and there's really not much I can do in the nighttime, but just dig down from spawn and hope I find some loot. Once it's daytime, I explored left of the world and there's a corruption, and I really can't get past the corruption without a weapon or basically any defense. I actually decided to go into the underground desert now. This is dangerous. The underground desert is incredibly tedious to traverse. It doesn't take too long to find my first underground desert house, but unfortunately a tomb crawler spawned, so I had to rush to the chest, but there was 3 ant lions inside the house, and it's nighttime, so I had to make a bed, sleep in it till it's daytime, then go back to the underground desert. But luck is on my side because the first chest I opened had what I wanted, a magic conch. With the magic conch, I can go straight to the beach, which is important because Foxparks only spawns on the outside of the map. But I travel a bit to the left of the right ocean, and there's a little bit of sun peeping through of what is a temple. So I dug down, and once again, luck is on my side because within it is a sandstorm in a bottle. Now, there's actually 2 specific things I want before we can start looking for Foxparks, and they are within the ice biome and the jungle biome. While I was over at the dungeon, I headed down, hoping I'm not going to spawn the dungeon guardian, and grabbed a water candle. Unfortunately for me, there's a thunderstorm, and I kept dropping into water right before a thunderstrike decided to pop up, and thunder hitting a large pool of water instantly kills you. But eventually, I made it to the snow, and all I want here is a bunch of snow blocks. Once I had all that, all I have to do is go to the jungle and start breaking some grass. It didn't take long to get a jungle grass seed, so I went to the right ocean, roped up, and started building a platform out of snow blocks towards the edge of the world. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, why am I using snow blocks? Well, it's just the easiest block to use for Foxparks. According to the wiki, Foxparks and Kataver only spawn on grass, jungle grass, snow, or ice in the daytime. And since I didn't want to have to grow grass, this is the easiest thing. But you might be wondering, why did I get jungle grass then? This is just to grow some jungle in a controlled area to increase spawn rate. And the higher the spawn rates, the faster we will get Kataver and Foxpark. And then I decided to do some mining. This was purely because I just wanted a grappling hook. This is because there's a certain strategy I want to use with the hook, along with getting a bunch of ores so I can make some armor. I also got enough topaz to make a topaz hook. And in that time, the jungle grass grew a lot. It wasn't even that long. I didn't know jungle grows so quickly. I placed down the garden gnome for extra luck, which I believe will increase the chance of us getting Foxparks instead of Kataver. Now, the reason that we're on the edge of the world is because of the positioning of the camera. We can actually see the enemies spawn in, which means we don't need a life form analyzer to be able to know when Foxparks or Kataver have spawned in. I also wanted to get a lucky clover from breaking grass, but I just didn't manage to get it. It seems pretty rare. I don't think I even got one in the whole playthrough. And what's funny is in the end, the traveling merchant actually came and sold me the life form analyzer. So I ended up with one anyway, but whatever. And with this farm, all these enemies, once they get to me, are falling down a hole, which will despawn them so that more enemies can spawn in. And it didn't take too long for our first spawn to happen. Unfortunately, it was Kataver. But with Kataver, we can at least do a control test to see how the strategy goes. What I tried to do was grapple under the platform so that I could break the blocks underneath the arches and despawn them to save Kataver. Unfortunately though, if you just get near the arches, they just decide to run at Kataver and kill it. So now we know that that strategy won't work with Foxparks. The issue is, I don't know how we're going to save Foxparks. I then decided to build this rope thing. It'll make sense in a minute, but it was a new idea I had brewing. And then after 40 minutes of sitting here, another spawn happened, and once again, it was Kataver. But now I can test my new idea on Kataver. So I rope over with enough distance to hopefully not aggro the archers. And I threw a bomb on the archer and that just killed Kataver like instantly. I also didn't feel too good about this because it was a damage source that wasn't a flamethrower. So that didn't work and we're just gonna pretend that that never happened. 5 minutes later, Kataver spawns in again for the third time. It is a 60% chance that Kataver will spawn and a 40% that Foxparks will spawn. The chances might be closer to 50% with the gnome. I don't know. I rushed over to Kataver before some enemies started to hit it. I threw a bomb down on Kataver, which broke the snow blocks underneath it. It then starts plummeting towards the ocean, and I find it at the bottom of the ocean, and it thinks that I've saved it and I can safely collect it. So there we go. We have officially captured Kataver without killing anything. And less than 5 minutes later, Foxparks decides to show its cute little face on my screen. So we're doing the same strategy. Head over on the rope, throw a bomb directly on it. The bomb destroys the platform. Foxparks starts falling. The archers didn't even move. I didn't even hit them with the bomb. And there we have it. We've finally captured Foxparks, our first and only weapon for quite a while. Now, obviously, with Foxparks, it's a summon. And by default, it's just a summon that shoots some fireballs at the enemies. But if you hold down left click, it actually functions as a flamethrower. Now, obviously, I can't be holding down Foxparks all the time, so there will be some accidental damage without the flamethrower from the summon. And I'll try my best to always use the flamethrower instead of the summon. I mean, the flamethrower does more damage than the summon anyway. There's not too much to talk about here. It's just gearing up. Life Crystal is the most important thing I need to get. And I'm only on 220 max health when it starts raining slime, but I'm pretty sure I can beat the King Slime here. The King Slime is not incredibly huge. We get to see Foxparks Flamethrower in full action now. Now, as a normal summoner, using the Flamethrower obviously makes it so you can't use a whip, so I'm not sure if it's actually worth using this normally, but in this particular scenario, the Flamethrower is pretty good. And I don't even have summoner armor on, so its damage isn't actually boosted in any way besides its modifier. Eventually, I've killed enough slimes for the King Slime to spawn in, and I mean, the King Slime is such a freaking pushover on Master Mode. Like, compared to For the Worthy Legendary Mode King Slime, this is such a breeze. The Flamethrower is actually doing a really good job against this thing. I mean, that's what you'd expect when something that's made of gel, which is incredibly flammable. But yeah, the hardest part of this fight was literally just turning around so that I can keep running. But it's really easy to manipulate this guy. It got a little bit harder once he got smaller and faster, but easy as cake. Now we go back to the mines, getting life crystals, all of that. I went over to the corruption and smashed an orb just to hopefully get a goblin army. I then feel an evil presence watching me. I'm pretty sure I can do this, although I don't have Hermes boots, and more importantly, I don't have roller skates. So my movement is not very good, and I don't even have a feather fall potion, but I do have a gravity potion. Now the Foxparks, even with full platinum armor and no summoner armor, this is doing some incredible damage. I mean, granted, it has to be a main weapon, and if you have the Flinx fur coat, you could get 1 or 2 Flinxes alongside it, which would increase the damage here. But really, this is just annihilating the eye. Like, it doesn't even matter that I don't have movement, because this thing is gonna be dead in no time. This really impressed me. I didn't think Foxparks would be this good. I then actually very luckily managed to come across a slime statue. I don't know how many of these are in my world, but the fact that I just randomly stumbled across it this early in the game is very good for us. Although obviously it's not needed right now because Foxparks takes no ammunition to work as a flamethrower. I then came across Jack Sellington in the caverns. Hopefully he's selling some roller skates, and he is in fact selling some classic roller skates. And also a loaf of bread. Since this is not for the worthy, I can check some Sky Islands, and the chests up here aren't locked golden chests. So I got a lucky horseshoe and a shiny red balloon. After that, I went into the underground desert, trying to find the last of the life crystals I need and a bar statue. I did get max health, and instead of a bar statue, I actually found Digtoise. And Digtoise aided me in eventually finding a natural bar statue. And now I spawned in the goblin army. Now with the Foxparks flamethrower, this was tearing them up. It was actually a very good weapon against these goblins. Once the goblins were defeated, I used Digtoise to find the shimmer. A 7-month-old baby then grabbed my mouse and blew up my house.
No, you just freaking blew up my house, bro.
Oh my gosh.
The shimmer was really low in the world. I then went into the cabins, finding the bound goblin tinkerer, spending a bunch of money on a Foxparks reforge, and I did manage to get fabled on it. And now's the time to shimmer forge for warding. And considering I'm using roller skates, I have so many free accessories with this. The only actual useful accessory that I have is my double jump accessory. But that's gonna change with this blood moon. I just start torching a bunch of enemies like the true arsonist I am. And it in fact did not change because none of the enemies dropped a shark tooth necklace. So whatever, I just have a bunch of useless accessories. After that, I start bombing the underground corruption and placing some platforms for an arena for the Eater of Worlds. Now I chose corruption for 2 specific things. One of those things is wrath potions, since rage potions can't actually buff Foxparks damage at all. Since it's a summon, it doesn't benefit from crit chance. But the other reason is I'm pretty sure that a flamethrower is going to be really good against the Eater of Worlds, since they are notoriously good against worms. And my theory was pretty correct. I was tearing up the Eater of Worlds like it was nothing. All the segments were being set on fire, set ablaze with my pyromaniac-ism-ist. Now I will admit the Brain of Cthulhu would probably be really easy as well, but this was a freaking piece of cake. I mean, also this is only Master Mode. It's not for the worthy Eater of Worlds, so it's really not that hard at all. But I'm pretty sure that would have destroyed Legendary for the worthy Eater of Worlds as well. And now with the Eater of Worlds defeated, I now have an actual usable accessory for the Worm Scarf. And speaking of usable accessories, a Blood Moon happens again. This time I decided to go to my ocean farm to farm a bunch of enemies, and I very quickly got a shark tooth necklace this time. Well, I actually got 3 of them. And now with the Nightmare Pickaxe, I headed into the cabins, leading some water into some lava, and got a bunch of obsidian. Although this is useless without a certain thing from the underworld. So I got Dig Toys to start digging down to the underworld. Definitely paid labor here, guys. I am paying him a livable wage for this. It is not forced labor. Also, I want to mention that Dig Toys is over 18 years old, so this is not child labor. In fact, Dig Toys is over 100 years old, and I see no problem with putting senior citizens under the workforce. Once my well-paid senior citizen made it to the underworld, I found my way into an obsidian house, which had a HE double hockey sticks forge in it. And with the Heck Forge, we can make obsidian armor. Obsidian armor will actually be the best armor, not only for pre-hard mode, but also for pre-mech, for the most damage output for Foxparks. But I also wanted options on a more tanky build, so I jumped straight into the lava, mining up a bunch of hellstone. This was very slow, but I did get my molten armor, and I put on a texture pack to make molten armor look like the pyro from TF2. And who loves to set things on fire more than the pyro? And I even have a flame trail behind me. I then offed myself a bunch of times to get some gravestones for a gravedigger's shovel. I then cleared out some dirt to make a flat area, and then just walked back and forth until I found the unconscious man and spawned in the old one's army. Now this proved to be very difficult, and I got overwhelmed very quickly by the Etherean wyverns, so I may have cheesed it a little bit, but still these wyverns were really annoying, and I lost once again and again. But I finally was able to kill the dark mage just before the wyverns destroyed the crystal, which gave me a squire's shield, and that was the only reason I did that, for an extra 10% summon damage for my Foxparks. I then went fishing for potion materials, got balloon puffer fish, which I could shimmer into shiny red balloons, which will be useful for later. But for now, I created an arena at the dungeon, and at the fall of night, I spawned in Skeletron. Unfortunately, a blood moon rose at the exact same time, which means some enemies will probably spawn during this fight, but this is only Master Mode Skeletron. It shouldn't be that hard. Now, Foxparks was doing a reasonable job against Skeletron's hands. It was chipping him down very well. Like, this is the damage you'd kind of expect for a weapon at Skeletron tier, and this is pre-boss, and at this stage, you can get even more summons to go with Foxparks, if you're not doing a flamethrowers only playthrough like me. But yeah, I mean, these hands were absolutely minced. The enemies spawning were kind of annoying, but I'm used to Darkcasters being around, and now all it is the skull and some homing skulls. But Skeletron is not doing much damage to me. I don't even have my Hexstone armor on here. I can do the most damage when the skull is spinning towards me, as is the case most of the time. I actually figured out recently that when he's spinning, he actually drops defense a bit. So that's why you can do so much damage when Skeletron is spinning. Not only that, but it's just easier to hit him. And yeah, I'm really not taking much damage here. The occasional homing skull will hit me, but I just regen it back up. I have a Wrath Potion here for extra damage, and Endurance for extra survivability, Iron Skin regen, with the Foxparks, which is doing a phenomenal job for a pre-boss weapon. All comes together to easily defeat Skeletron and get the Chippy's couch. Now there is very little that I need from the dungeon. I quickly find the mechanic, get a cobalt shield and a shadow key, and also an alchemy station. And that is everything that I needed. I shimmered the alchemy table to get the alchemy flask, and then I put my well-paid senior citizen to work in the snow biome, who led me right to an ice chest with a blizzard in a bottle in it. And with my shimmered balloon puffer fishes and the cloud in a bottle from earlier, I can now make the bundle of horseshoe balloons. And I also combined an obsidian skull with the cobalt shield to get the obsidian shield. So now all of my accessories have a function. Now, does the shackle have a big function? No, it doesn't. I then went over to the underground jungle. I found a beehive. I was going to make the area bigger for the fight, but Foxparks had different plans and accidentally murdered the queen bee's children. So we have to fight the queen bee in this small space, and at first it doesn't look like it's going too well. We've taken a decent amount of damage, but Foxparks is putting up a good fight against queen bee. When she's dashing, I can hit her, and I just want to drop down to dodge the dash as per usual. But the big damage source, as per usual, is when queen bee is sitting there spawning in the bees. And luckily the flamethrower actually kills the bees and does damage to the queen bee at the same time. And the damage just starts racking up. She's quickly losing health. Foxparks is so surprisingly good. Like, I actually am so impressed with this weapon. And queen bee is easily defeated. What does that get us? Nothing. That was absolutely for nothing. That was just a detour to fight a boss for the sake of it. And with that, there's nothing left for us to do but to go into the underworld, make a couple houses at the edge of it, and start building my arena for the wall of flesh. Now, my arena here is not a funnel. You might be shocked to hear that. CJ DEATHBOT always does a funnel. Well, this isn't for the worthy, ladies and gentlemen. There's no imps on drugs here. This is just good old-fashioned master mode wall of flesh. And all I need for this is a big platform. I could have used a regular platform, but minecart tracks are very cheap and I can ride them with my roller skates. Now, I did this on the edge of the world because there's no obsidian houses at the edge of the world. Although for how big I'm gonna need this platform to be, I do end up bumping into houses and I have to break my way through them. It takes a long time. The enemies spawning are annoying, but Foxparks is doing a decent damage at killing them off. And with a pretty well-sized arena, I'm feeling good enough to throw in a guide voodoo doll and spawn in the wall of flesh. Now, the issue with this fight though is that Foxparks is still a pre-boss weapon, and pre-boss weapons do start to fall off pretty hard for the wall of flesh. And with how fast Master Mode Hungry grow and how much damage they do, it's not the easiest task to beat this boss. But I will say this isn't the worst weapon I've used against the wall of flesh. Foxparks does a decent job at controlling the Hungry. I can knock them back into each other and then just kill them all at once, but it is hard to group them all up together. Also, Foxparks has basically just not enough range for that ideal range to be hitting the wall of flesh. I wish it had just a bit more for this fight, 'cause I need to get him pretty close to be hitting the wall. This fight is very long. I'm not doing a ton of damage to this thing, but I'm definitely chipping it down. The wall is now under half health, but so am I. But it's looking promising. Now, eventually, I do run out of platform space, and I get stuck in the house like an idiot, and I'm just instantly dead. But that was a good attempt. But there are two things that I want to change about this strategy now, though. That being the Titan Potion, which increases my knockback, which should help against the Hungries, and Heart Reach Potions, which I found in Shadow Chest. And they will help with our heart pickup range to get hearts from the Hungries and the Leeches. I also placed campfires along the arena and spawned in the wall of flesh again. Now, I'm using a Featherfall Potion here just to control my vertical movement a bit more. And this time around, I adopted a new strategy of jumping up and down, which basically manipulates the Hungries in a perfect way so that they're not reaching out towards me, but they're more reaching up and down, which allows me to get closer to the wall and actually hit it with the Hungries alive. I think the Titan Potion was also helping here because the Hungries were getting knocked back a lot more. And all these strategies combined really made the Foxparks shine. It looks really decent against the wall here. It's doing a lot of damage. I'm consistently hitting it with it, knocking back these Hungries, and I'm really not taking that much damage damage. Using honey buff, I'm getting a bunch of regen. The wall is getting super low now. It's speeding up a lot, so I just have to run. The hungry are falling way behind, so they're not a problem. I'm getting a bit low, but the wall is getting incredibly low. I'm down to 100 health, but just like that, the wall of flesh is defeated, and we made it to hard mode with only Foxparks. Now that we're in hard mode, I headed straight to the underground corruption and started smashing some demon altars. And while I go mine some palladium with my molten pickaxe, you guys better hit that sub button for this epic playthrough. You only see this kind of content on this channel. No one else does Terraria challenge videos. It's just me. You don't fact check that. I'm the only one who does it. All right, now that you're all subscribed, I mined some orichalcum, got an orichalcum anvil and an orichalcum pickaxe. I then mined up a bunch of titanium ore and made a titanium forge, and then took the rest of my titanium ore and shimmered it into adamantite ore, and then made adamantite armor with that. And now is the point of the playthrough where the mechanic is useful. I made a grand design and bought a couple of teleporters. I then started creating a bit of an arena in the sky. This was annoying because harpies and wyverns kept spawning. I did manage to kill a wyvern though. Luckily the wyverns stopped spawning once you're behind safe background walls, and I started creating this contraption, and I believe my arena is now ready. Now you might be wondering, what the heck am I actually doing? This makes no sense. How is this the next thing that I need to do? And to understand that, we need to go back a bit. Back before I even started this playthrough. Now, before I start certain playthroughs that seem really hard, I need to assess if it's even possible in the first place. And the two major roadblocks that I had were, first, can I beat the wall of flesh with only a Foxpark? But the main test was, how can I get the next flamethrower in progression when it's locked behind a mechanical boss, specifically Skeletron Prime, with only a Foxparks? Is that even possible, considering all of the mech bosses are on time constraints? You have to defeat them within the nighttime or else you fail the fight. But is that actually true for all of them? Well, for the Destroyer and for the Twins, that is true. They just despawn once it's daytime. But specifically for one, Skeletron Prime is the only mech boss that doesn't despawn at daytime. Instead, it enrages. It basically becomes a homing in Dungeon Guardian, but the mechanical version. It gains 9999 defense and will one-shot you no matter what. But it also doesn't despawn. So this was important because this means that if I set up the right arena, which I was trying to figure out what arena worked, where I could kill Skeletron Prime without getting one shot, preferably AFK because it has 53,550 health, and I'm gonna do 1 damage with Foxparks. And most importantly, what arena can I use where I won't die either instantly or by the bombs and lasers, where Foxparks can hit Skeletron Prime? Now, I followed this YouTube video that actually gave me the idea for this whole strategy. The reason we're in space is to like manipulate Skeletron Prime into spawning into the middle of that box, I think. But the issue with that setup was my Foxparks could not actually reach Skeletron Prime. I was too far away. So I moved the teleporters closer, and this way I can teleport back and forth, doing 1 damage and setting him on fire, and very, very slowly kill Prime. The box in the middle has a very specific purpose, which is to block all lasers and bombs. It actually completely blocks them all, as when I'm teleporting back and forth, they stay inside that box, and I'm never getting hit. Prime is just spinning back and forth. I'm only hitting Prime when he's spinning towards the left side. Once it turns nighttime, Prime does not turn back into its original state. It stays enraged. Even once it's nighttime, daytime, it'll stay enraged forever until it either kills you or it dies. And now it's just a waiting game. And I realized that this was going to take a freaking long time. I calculated it based on how long it took me to do 1,000 damage. I calculated that it would take over 2 hours to defeat Prime. So I just went to sleep. Now, while we're killing it, I want to address the elephant in the room. This is kind of a cheese. I'm cheesing the boss fight. It's not really a challenge. I'm just going AFK until Prime is defeated. But it's the only way I knew how to actually defeat Prime with Foxparks, since I just can't kill it in time with Foxparks. It doesn't do enough damage. But that is until I got a message in my Discord server where someone reminded me of the fact that Get Fixed Boy and the Remix Seed completely ignore day-night cycle. It doesn't exist. So that means that you can fight Skeletron Prime infinitely on the Remix Seed. So what would that have looked like? So I decided to go onto a journey mode character, replicate a build I would have used for Skeletron Prime Prime. Would it have been possible if I did it this way? Now, the build here I had was a full-on tank build. And with this build, I was taking very little damage from Prime. It was basically impossible to kill me. Unless I like face tanked it, I'd probably die. So that meant that Foxparks will be able to kill this. It's just gonna take a long time. Now, there were two issues with this fight. Since I was using a maxed out character, obviously I have 600 health when at this point I should only have 480 since you can't get life fruit pre-mech. But eventually in the fight, I took off my life force, which brought me down to 500, which is very close. And none of that even matters because during the whole fight, I didn't even drop below like 400 health. Like, it was ridiculous. At no point in this fight did I think that I was in trouble. Now, the other issue was that I've used Aegis fruit on this character, which gives me an extra 4 defense permanently. But to offset this, I was using the tipsy debuff, so it completely mitigated it. And after a 35-minute fight, I'm not kidding, Skeletron Prime was defeated. No cheese. Obviously, that wasn't on our world. That didn't actually matter at all. I just wanted to show that that was an alternative way that I could have done this challenge. But with the AFK Prime fight, it took so long that a pirate invasion started. Luckily, that didn't hinder me at all. And after 3 hours and 18 minutes of AFK fighting Skeletron Prime, it was finally defeated. The issue now, though, is that I am still asleep. So I keep teleporting back and forth with the pirate invasion still being an issue. And a couple hours later, the twins randomly spawned on me. And this one, I cannot be AFK. Literally a couple seconds before the night was gonna end, Red Nazer finished me off, putting me back home, and I just died. Literally, I kid you not, hundreds of times. This went on for 3 more hours, but I finally woke up, went to my PC, found the insane amount of graves and deaths, and I headed up to get the Skeletron Prime treasure bag. I then had to actually clear this pirate invasion, so I dug myself in a hole and just killed things with my Foxparks until it was defeated. I then set up my slime statues so that I could get some gel. In hindsight, I should have set this up overnight, but I now have an endless stream of gel. And at nighttime, I bought the illegal gun parts. With that and some iron and the souls of fright, I made the Flamethrower. We finally have a new weapon, and holy crap, take a look at it. The damage is so much better than Foxparks. And after the blood moon, a solar eclipse is happening. So now I have to clear out a solar eclipse. Luckily with this, I do get a broken batwing and a moonstone. And I also managed to get a Neptune's shell. And then, once the solar eclipse is over, another blood moon rises. I then changed my helmet into a ranged helmet, made some bat wings, and then this time I purposefully spawned a blood moon to hopefully get a bunch of mimic spawns, and I did manage to get a cross necklace. I made an artificial crimson biome, but before I can finish that, I feel vibrations from deep below. Now, the flamethrower should be pretty good against the destroyer. It spawns in and I go straight for the coiled up ball, and it does not absolutely eviscerate the destroyer. The flamethrower can only pierce up to 3 enemies, which means it does not have infinite pierce, so it can't just completely cheese the destroyer. But that's okay. That's probably good game design. Regardless, this weapon is very good, not for cheesing, but for actually doing damage to the destroyer in a normal fashion. There are a lot of lasers. This fight isn't actually super easy on Master Mode, and if it wasn't for the probes dropping a bunch of hearts, I would be long dead. But it's also true that I didn't buff up at all, so it could have gone a bit better if I did that. But why waste buffs when I can beat it without them? And in no time, Flamethrower makes quick work of it, really good against killing the probes as well. The destroyer is defeated. Now I'm just farming vertebrae at the artificial crimson. I got a freaking jungle key from this, and then I spawned in the brain of Cthulhu. This was obviously not a problem at all. It just got completely melted, and that gives us the brain of confusion. And now that we are the ranged class and using a ranged weapon instead of a summon weapon, crit chance does matter, so I fished up some hemopiranhas for some rage potions. Then I decided to collect some life fruits. I managed to get 9 of them and the Aegis fruit, and I spawned in the twins. Now this weapon was absolutely tearing apart the twins. The flames were doing so much damage that this was impressing me so much. It almost felt like I was cheating, like I shouldn't have this weapon at this stage, but it's completely possible to defeat Skeletron Prime before the other 2 mechs and get this weapon and just destroy destroy them. At this point, it didn't even feel like a challenge. Like, the flamethrower was just melting them literally. At 2000 degrees heat, it's turning their metallic bodies into mush. Spasmatism was quickly dealt with, and then it was onto Retinazer, and this was just a joke. Like, at no point in this fight did I feel like I was in danger of losing it. And now with that done, I headed back to the jungle, getting some chlorophyte with the pickaxe axe and the rest of my life fruit. And once I was max health, I cleared out an arena for Plantera. I then decided to spawn in the Queen Slime. I don't really know why, I just felt like it. I usually forget this boss, and up to this point, I forgot her, but yeah, let's just defeat her. Let's see if it's a challenge at all. No, it really wasn't. I defeated the Wall of Flesh again, giving me another emblem, which I could turn into an Avenger emblem. Like, at this point, I just have so many accessories that an Avenger emblem is pretty good. And with an Osagoth tunnel, we're ready to fight Plantera, but before I do that, I make some jungle juice, and then I spawned her in. Now, I fully expect the flamethrower to be pretty dang good against Plantera here, and it is just absolutely annihilating her. Being an arsonist is really paying off right now. She's made of literal grass. I mean, fire is just insane against her. She is so quickly into second phase. Look at this freaking damage. I'm doing over 2000 damage per second, which is really good. Once she's in second phase and I'm in the Osagoth tunnel, I mean, it's just destroying her little tendrils, and she's taking so much damage, and I killed her before I even used like half of my Osagoth tunnel. That was insane. The freaking flamethrower is so good. Now with Plantera defeated, I headed into the post-Plantera dungeon. Here I'm mainly just looking for ectoplasm, which I am farming up, and it didn't take long for me to kill a paladin, and it dropped the paladin's shield. So with that, I went over to the ice biome, farming a bunch of ice tortoises. This took a very long time, but eventually I finally got it. Something else I can do now that I'm post-Plantera is make an above ground mushroom biome. Okay, well, I could do that before, but I have a reason to do it now. That brings the truffle, which I can buy an auto hammer. I then had to get a bunch of glowing mushrooms, and eventually I could make enough shroomite bars to make full shroomite armor, the specialist kind. The issue with shroomite armor is the set bonus is kind of garbage. It doesn't do much unless you're like on multiplayer, because when are you ever going to be standing still? But it has decent stats, so I'm using it anyway. I headed over to the lizard temple, clearing it out, getting all the lizard power cells I could find, setting up a tiny little platform, and spawning in the golem. Now this shouldn't be too hard. The flamethrower is getting a bit outdated now, but it's still pretty good. As I said before, it pierces up to 3 enemies, which means it can pierce the fists and the body, hitting them all at the same time. And since this is not for the worthy legendary mode, this fight is not that hard. He's much bigger, he's not jumping around like a maniac, and I can freaking see. So it'll probably come to no surprise that I defeated this with no issues. And I went on to defeat it again, and 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 again, using up all my lizard power cells, because there are 2 things in particular that I want: the sunstone and the eye of the golem. But from every single golem treasure bag, I didn't get a sunstone, nor did I get an eye of the golem. I can't understate how much I hate the golem's loot pool, how annoying this grind is, and how poorly this is designed, where these really good accessories used in some of the best damage source accessories in the late game, and it's tied to a loot pool of 7 things, most of which is crappy weaponry. I even could have used 2 or 3 eye of the golems, because I could have made a destroyer emblem, a sniper scope, and a recon scope, and I didn't get the sunstone either. So I'm not gonna make the celestial shell, because I'm not going to farm lizard enemies so that I can attempt the golem again just to get nothing. I'm moving on. I can beat this without min-maxing. Unfortunately, the Everscream could hit me with its pine needles, and that did a lot of damage, but I ended up being fine for the most part. Everything in this event just does so much damage, and eventually a sand tank spawned in, and it very quickly killed me. But this time I'm fighting it from outside of the box because it makes it a bit easier, although it's also easy to get hit for a lot of damage from it. Luckily, I dodged a missile, and on the skin of my teeth, on like 20 health, sand tank has been defeated, but it dropped nothing. So I continue on with the Frost Moon, progressing the waves, killing Everscreams and all the enemies, until another sand tank spawns in, and an Ice Queen spawns in. so I'm in grave danger. There's an Everscream, a Sand Tank, and an Ice Queen after me, but I do manage to kill the Everscream. Now I just need to focus out this Sand Tank, and I just managed to kill the Sand Tank, and the second one drops the Elf Melter. I'm not sure the exact percentage chance of that happening on wave 11, but anyway, we have an upgrade and the final weapon that we will be getting. It shoots out these blue flames. It looks pretty sick. It has more range than the Flamethrower and does a bunch more damage. I reforged it to Unreal, costing an arm and a leg. And what's actually pretty nice is in 1.4.5, it got a minor buff. It also puts this little tank on my back, so I look like a true pyromaniac. I then spawned in the Old One's army. This is just because I wanted some Old One's army armors to mix with my Shroomite, since I can't utilize stealth, so I might as well mix some armor. It wasn't going too well. I did get up to Betsy eventually, but my crystal got pretty overwhelmed. But I did get the Red Riding leggings, which for all that effort gives 3% extra critical strike chance. But what I decided to do was actually allow myself to use the Flame Burst staff in the Old One's army event. It's kind of like a flamethrower, but what's important is I didn't use this outside of the Old One's army. The Old One's army is just really freaking hard on solo, especially without any sentries, which is what this whole thing is like built around. I could have just kept slowly farming these medals with the lower waves, but this just moved things up faster. And now with the Flame Burst staff, it can defend my crystal while I fight Betsy, and I was managing to do quite a bit of damage to Betsy. Unfortunately though, right before I kill Betsy, the crystal gets defeated, but I am able to kill Betsy before time runs out, giving me the relic and the treasure bag. Now the only thing I could have wanted from Betsy would have been the wings. I didn't get it, but I did get a bunch of medals so that I could get the Valhalla's Knight's breastplate in case I want to swap out my Shroomite breastplate for a bunch of regen. I then went over to the Hallowed, farmed some prismatic lace wings, and I spawned in the Empress of Light. Usually for this fight, I like to have a witch's broom for infinite flight, but I figure that roller skates and some wings with a featherfall potion should be completely fine. If I just tap my flight and hold up with a featherfall, I can extend my flight time dramatically, which allows me to get in a bit close with the Elf Melter since it doesn't have infinite range, and just glide around. Now the Elf Melter is doing pretty good here. The damage is respectable. It's not the best Empress of Light killer, but it's not bad. I can kill her at a relatively decently fast pace, but in comparison to something like the chain gun with chlorophyte bullets, I feel like it's just not as good as that, and those are both dropped by the same enemy. But I feel like the Elf Melter is obviously more for crowd control than single target. But anyway, it's pretty good. It defeated the Empress of Light pretty quickly. I then decided to fight the Empress again. This time I have the soaring insignia for infinite flight, which makes this fight a bit easier. And obviously I defeated her with no issues, and then I fought her again, just hoping for the wings, but I didn't get it. So instead, now that it's daytime, I decided to fish up Duke Fishron. And this fight is a completely different story than the Empress. The Elf Melter is fantastic against this boss. It's doing very good damage, and more importantly, it completely annihilates his bubbles. They don't even get a chance to come close to me, and it also is pretty good at killing the sharks. If there's sharks headed towards me, I usually just kill them as collateral while trying to kill Duke Fishron. So it's really going well. Second phase is no problem. Once it gets into third phase, I'm just counting the dashes. I go up on 1 and 1, 2, and then down on 1, 2, 3, and it's as simple as that. Duke Fishron is easily defeated without any buffs. I fight him a couple more times, still not getting the wings. Once it's nighttime again, I decide to fight Empress. Even though this fight is not as smooth as Duke Fishron, I might as well use the prismatic lace wings I already have. And after a couple Empress fights, I actually managed to get the Empress wing. I then did my final fishing session, and then I spawned in the Lunatic Cultist. This fight, once again, I'm not even buffing up for this. It's only Master Mode. His attacks are doing not much damage. Eventually, he does his clone attack, and it's actually pretty easy to distinguish which one is which when I'm in the glowing mushroom biome. And the Elf Melter is doing respectable damage. Lunatic Cultist really doesn't have much health. It's only 61,000. Empress has like double his health. And as long as I hit the right one, which I do a second time, and I don't get hit by these ancient lights, although it doesn't do as much damage as it would on legendary mode, and also dodge these prophecies ends, we're completely fine. Lunatic Cultist defeated. And now comes the pillars. This was not the best situation, but Stardust Pillar was super easy. I just farmed a bunch of cells as usual. The Flamethrower melted them so easily, and in no time the shield was down, and that's that one done. After that, I went over to the Solar Pillar, and this one was not not as smooth. I didn't set up a cheese or anything. I just went straight for it. And I died a couple times. I will admit it. It wasn't easy, but at least the elf melter's pretty good at killing the pillar itself. Next up, I decided to do the nebula, which I thought would be the hardest one. I think solar was actually harder than this. My strategy for nebula pillar is just with my soaring insignia, just basically fly in circles. It works 90% of the time and without any deaths, but after a while, the nebula pillar was destroyed, marking the solar pillar as the hardest one, because we all know the vortex pillar, the final one, is a pushover. But I did actually die on it trying to set up my cheese, but this pillar is a pushover purely because this cheese is so easy and the pillar was defeated just like that. With all the fragments, I made some super healing potions for a huge 20 extra health per heal compared to the jungle juice, and then I just waited for the Moon Lord to arrive. Once he arrived, I started elf melting his top eye for the couple seconds that it's open at the start, and then just went straight to the left eye. I can destroy the leeches while attacking the eye with the elf melter. We did some decent damage, and then once the top eye is open again, I'm going straight for that. Completely dodged the death laser. I'm still using the roller skates here. For some reason, I thought that the soaring insignia just didn't work with the roller skates. Turns out that it does. So why not use it? I start balancing the damage on the eyes. I start doing some damage on the right eye. Once the top eye is open again, I'm just focusing damage on that. It's already like half health. The elf melter is actually doing a pretty good job here. I'm pretty impressed. And the fact that we can hit the hand eyes while also hitting the top eye because of its pierce and its range is really good. I am taking some damage from these projectiles. We're not looking incredibly healthy, but really it's not going too bad. Once the top eye is open again, we dodge that death laser and it's really low now. So instead of focusing the top eye, now we're focusing the hand eyes. I don't want to destroy the top eye too quickly and get the True Eye of Cthulhu's out. We actually end up getting to under 200 health, but we do pop a super healing potion, which gets us a bunch of health. The hand eyes are now getting relatively low. And finally, I destroy the left eye, bringing out the True Eye of Cthulhu a little bit early. Once the top eye is open, I destroy it just as it's shooting the death laser, cutting it short. And now I just got to focus on the right eye. It doesn't take long for it to be popped out. And now we just got to shoot the core. Unfortunately, at the distance I was at, the elf melter was not reaching the core, but I adjusted just a little bit and now I'm doing damage to it. And the damage is pretty good. And as long as I stay on the run, the True Eye of Cthulhu's are just completely missing me, except when they're not. But honestly, we have so much survivability, it's fine. I switch out my Valhalla's breastplate that was giving me that increased health regeneration for the Shroomite breastplate just to do a bunch of extra damage, and it's already set in stone, man. This thing is getting melted, and just like that, the Moon Lord is defeated, which now answers the question, yes, you can defeat Terraria Master Mode in 1.4.5 with only flamethrowers thanks to the addition of Foxparks. My slime farm yielded 4 slime staves. I then spawned in Deerclops for a final challenge, and by the skin of our teeth, the elf melter was able to kill him, and now we're officially victorious. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. That was a lot of fun, actually. These weapons are really good. Fun fact, I died 700 times in this playthrough. Shout out to my members being Zooson1244, Goliath ID Gaming YT, Retrack 41, The Mad Potato, and Chincorn 4840. Become a member and I'll say your name in the end like I just did. And you also get access to early videos and a secret little members club in my Discord server. Smash like on the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.